Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, to United Adventure Company's Friday night Delta Green stream. I hope you can hear me out there. Let me know if you can't. I'll make adjustments as needed. You'll see some new faces on the screen and a new handler for tonight. This is going to be a fun one, I think. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight on a Friday night. We're going to be doing these every Friday night until this adventure's done, and who knows what'll happen after that. Um, Make sure you're in our Discord. Those of you bots out there that are following us, make sure you're in our Discord so you can see what's going on and catch up live with all the players. We'll get to introductions here shortly, but a big special thank you and shout out to our Patreon supporters, the two Patreon supporters that we have that are helping us do all this good stuff. So thank you so much to the two of you. Um, I don't have much else to talk about this evening. It's Friday. How's everybody in chat land? Good to see you. I'll throw it over to our story facilitator, as he has named himself. Uh, our first time running a game for us here on the United Adventure Company, the handler to Starless. Take it away, sir. It's all yours.
All right. Hey guys. Real quick, just talk about this for a second. Like, I think this is just kind of a fun setting that a lot of people shy away from, and we were just having a conversation about it. And so try to do our best to do it justice. If you want to jump over on the Discord and have a conversation about it, you know, always welcome to do that. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a step back, and we're going to go back in time to 2008 in a little place where two rivers come together called Adamyhia, Iraq. Okay. So we have two operators with 5th Special Forces Group, ODA 3518. That would be Sergeant First Class Lucas Heath. Oh. As well as Staff Sergeant Butch and their interpreter, Diracula D. Goes by D. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to get started. First off, we're going to start with our agents, Agent Malawan, being played by Nathan here, and Agent Morganite. So Agents Malawan and Agent Morganite, you guys have been contacted directly from a letter that looks very similar to a publisher's clearinghouse entry letter. It advertises that you've already won a 1-week, all expenses paid trip to a beautiful sandy getaway. The letter includes a website to claim your tickets with a banner, the travel dates from ASOL Travel Services. You navigate to the page, you enter your information, you receive an email in response almost immediately, informing you that you've been selected as a winner in our sweepstakes to an all expenses paid trip to a deluxe palatial resort that has been in the use since the Sumerian kings reigned. Enjoy local cuisine, take in exotic shows, see wonders and mysteries of the Bronze Age, and please complete and return the attached form to claim your tickets. When you open the document, your computer opens to an encrypted file, which has been included in the email. That encrypted file has been sent to both of you previously, and I'm fairly certain that you both read it. So we're going to skip part of it, and we're going to jump down to the part about what we're actually doing. You've been informed that there is reliable intelligence which has come in regarding the presence of a major artifact having been uncovered at, quote, a brick factory in Taji, Iraq. A team of Army Special Forces soldiers, led by a friendly commanding officer operating out of Cop Apache, are performing extractions of high-skilled professionals, professors, researchers, engineers, scientists, historians, antiquarians, etc., concurrent with 4th Infantry Division's high-value target operation, codenamed Trunk Monkey, which aims to remove the Jaish Mahdi, which is a group of human traffickers and militia members, and Al Qaeda international bomb makers and smugglers who have embedded within the various neighborhoods throughout the area following the battle for Sadr City. All right. So it is fall 2008, and you are to enter into this war zone following what has been some of the bloodiest combat to date, and then to identify and secure the artifact. That is your mission. You both finish these letters, these emails. How are you going to go about making this happen? We'll start with Agent Malawan.
I mean, so we did get tickets, right? We got
Yes.
tickets out there. Yep.
Yes, all of the travel arrangements have been handled.
Excellent.
But you do have a life going on.
I do. He's going to concoct a story that the Smithsonian had a professor that was going out to the area on a dig, but unfortunately got very sick and they needed a replacement. They came to Agent Malawan, or Mr. Copeland, Darian Copeland, as his actual name is, and he's very apologetic, and I wouldn't go, but I really do need to. I really need to.
This is pretty out of character for you, so I mean, right?
Yes, most of his work so far has been primarily he has interaction with Delta Green, but it has been mostly as a friendly. They will bring him things for him to inspect, date, identify. This is the first time in the field proper.
Okay. So yeah, this is so new for you that this isn't a problem. Everyone just kind of like, oh my gosh, like it must be serious if he's taking off.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's a difficult area to get into right now, so any chance we can, we gotta jump at it.
All right. So, and what about Agent Morganite?
Well, I would, seeing as I know Malawan and we've worked together and we both work together at the Smithsonian, I would probably just come along and be like, "Oh, well, you see, what's your actual name again? Your actual character name?" Dr.
Darian Copeland.
Okay, Dr. Copeland is going to
Doctor,
need my
yes,
help in the field. You must understand, as the preeminent anthropologist in Sumerian artifacts, clearly I am qualified and needed on this mission.
Is that what you're telling your families or your family? I mean,
that's what I'm telling my boss. My family, well, yeah, I'll probably tell. I don't have. That's what I would tell my sister. Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure your story's staying straight. Okay. So you two are both ready to, you make all the arrangements. The tickets are electronically held at the airport for you. And you begin the process of traveling to the area. It takes almost a week for you initially leaving out of the United States, flying to Europe. In Europe, you hang around for a few days, and then you catch from Germany a civilian or another flight into Jordan. And within Jordan, they occasionally run a flight to the Green Zone or to Kuwait in order for you to catch the last leg of your journey from Kuwait into Baghdad International Airport, which is the Green Zone. Okay. When you arrive in Jordan, you are approached by a person who identifies themselves as your contact, and they're able to tell you things about your mission that are known only to you. They inform you that they're here to just provide you with all of your equipment, and you are provided with body armor, Kevlars, both of which are just plain green. Okay, to note, noting you as a non-combatant. But body armor, you also have a first aid kit, which is affixed to the body armor. Okay. He hands you your State Department credentials, which identify you both as working for the State Department in order to recover antiquities and to protect the intellectual property of the nation of Iraq and the people of Iraq, and informs you that this will survive any scrutiny that you might come under in country. They wish you luck and inform you that they will be here once you have resolved the situation.
Mia, do you know how to actually use a first aid kit?
No, I've never really had a need to.
I'm growing more concerned with this by the minute.
I mean, we're going to have people that are going to be escorting us, right? I mean, clearly they have to have a medic with them.
Yes, the first aid kit is not for you necessarily to be able to use, but to be used on you should you need it.
Okay. Dr. Copeland, we are in a war zone, if I must remind you.
And I also would recommend, once you arrive in country, to go about ensuring that you can acquire, that you get any supplies you may need inside the market. There is cash that will be provided to you once you land, that you can use in the market, and you can acquire most anything that you would need. The team that will be providing security will be able to guide you to the right locations. They will protect you, but you must not forget what you are doing. You are there for the incursion, to stop, to find this artifact. That is paramount. That is more important than anything else.
Yes, sir.
Indeed.
I know that both of you are newer at this, and you may not necessarily have the stomach for this for a long time. However, your expertise has really, you're catching a hard one. So just be careful and make sure that you don't spend too much time worrying about other people. They can worry for themselves.
Okay.
All right.
We have a mission. We understand. Don't we, Dr. Copeland?
Yes, Mia. Yeah. Yes.
So you fly from Jordan to Kuwait, and you land in Kuwait City. You take a bus. The airport is just surrounded by sand. You get off the airplane and walk across the tarmac to a waiting charter bus, and you climb onto the bus. You are seated in, when you get on, you're the first two people. Where are you sitting?
Near the back, I assume.
Yeah, I'll just go in there and I just flop down in the middle of the bus. Just pick a place and
just a random seat. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'll sit next to you.
So you guys are waiting. I mean, obviously the bus driver's on there. You guys wait on the bus for a little while, and then people begin to file on the bus, and it is all military members of the U.S. military, and they move in and they immediately go and file straight to the back and begin filling every single seat. As they walk by you, you can hear them, talking. Some of them kind of look sideways at you. but you file all the way in and it fills all the way to the front. And before they intentionally left the seats next to you empty, and a man walks up and introduces you to himself, and he's just informs you that he is going to be your escort to Camp Buring, and from Buring they will fly you to Biop. And once you are in Biop, then you will be catching a ride to Apache. It's a lot. He talks fast. He doesn't check to see if you understood. Only at the end, he looks at you and gives a gruff, "Huh?"
How am I supposed to respond to that?
You hear when he makes the sound, you hear someone involuntarily respond back with the exact same sound from behind you. You're not sure if they were listening or what, but when he makes that sound, you hear a few in response. And then he just sits down and the bus begins to pull off. He sits down in the seat across the aisle from you. And we're going to stop with you for a minute.
Oh, could you make that noise again?
What?
What?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
What is the significance of the? I see.
I think it's like school spirit.
All right. So going to the agents. All right. Sorry. 1 second. Or not the agents, the operatives. Sorry. Okay, so the you guys have been involved in the combat in and around Solder City and relating to the capture of Solder City. It has been a black site since the beginning of the invasion in 2002, and it falls at the corner of two routes. The way that the city was ultimately captured, a literal wall was built around it. And by controlling all movement in and out, you were able to basically collapse the economy in the black market that was supporting the many, many people who were living there. This did not come without cost. There were casualties on both sides, and it was pretty rough fighting. Specifically, your ODA was assigned to be essentially performing hard raids on high value targets in order to capture anyone and bring them out. You were operating out of a really what was little more than a camp built on gravel, a place called which was cratered by improvised rocket-assisted mortars that rained in on you, and as a result, you had to relocate. And you have since relocated to Adamyhia Palace, which is a palace that sits overlooking the river. As you pull in to Adamyhia Palace off of the main route that comes off of it, you have a guard shack, which is... It looks like a guard shack at an airport, like with the arm. You know what I'm talking about? It's got one of those with like a lane on either side, and it's just kind of in the middle. And then it's got the big Alaskan concrete T-walls that actually, encircle what is essentially your compound, including along the road. So the road, you can't just come off of it. When you're driving in, it's, concrete on both sides. And as you're driving up, eventually the concrete opens up, and on the far left-hand side, there is a helicopter pad. As you continue right after like I said, right after the break, there's the helicopter pad. As you continue on, you come to a motor pool, which is currently, it's a clear gravel space where there are just Bradleys, armored fighting vehicles parked. A large crater on one end of it, and just beyond that crater, there is just rubble, where the palace is missing. The palace just kind of stops existing, with stairwells coming from the top and from the bottom, but just ending at nothing. There is no platform. You can see through that into the palace proper. And as you continue to drive past beyond this, around the back of the palace, you pull into another motor pool, which is the motor pool which you guys use. Driving usually Toyota Hilux pickup trucks or 4Runners that are modified with some armor, but I wouldn't call it, it'll work in a pinch. It's not, you're not going to, survive a rocket or anything. As well as up armored Humvees and other military vehicles. And then just beyond that, another large but smaller palace, kind of like if you could imagine a grandmother suite or what's that called? A mother-in-law suite?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
Yeah.
a mother-in-law suite for a palace. This would be it. There's also a trailer just to the side, and in that side of that trailer, that's where you guys go to get, DVDs, dip, cigarettes, energy drinks. You drink a lot of Rippets, a lot of Wild Tigers, etc. Yeah. So this is your guys' operation. This is, or your base of operations. You live here with other members of the military. They are performing different operations than you are. Whenever and they live separately from you, but you both are sharing this space. And currently, your assigned mission up until today has been carrying out these targeted raids against high value targets, people who are IED makers, but not like low level IED makers. Like these are the brain children. These are the guys who are teaching people how to do this. Additionally, you have charismatic leaders of specific areas or specific groups, kidnappers, killers. There are people here. You do have a pretty good relationship with the people of the city. There's a women's college, as well as a rather lively market. And the people here, they like you. When you're out and you are engaging with the community, they bring you things. They talk to you. They do talk to you through your Terp D, as they, they're speaking Iraqi. You are, I don't think either of you took Iraqi. You both took Arabic, right? Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're just friendly to you. They like you. They give you information. It's not always good, but they try. And you can tell that, their hearts are in it. And this is a much better living situation than what you just came from. It has an actual building. It's not like, living in tents and such. Yeah, so you guys have recently returned from an operation. You performed a hard raid, found your guy, brought him back, and there is a building that is separate, very small building that's separate, where there are cells that were conveniently built by people that lived here before you, long before you, like Saddam before you. So you send them off that way, and you are heading toward the smaller building that you guys live in. And there are 15 steps that lead up to a balcony. And at the top of the balcony, you see the Captain Al, who is your team commander. Captain Al O'Brien, standing at the top, smoking a cigar, just looking out over the river as the sun is setting. Men, we just got a warno. We're going to be changing. We're going to be changing a lot around here. Why don't you guys come in the talk and we can talk about it? And he turns and walks inside and into the command cell.
Follow him in?
Yeah, follow him in. The only thing that stays the same around here, Captain, is change, so nothing new for us. get her done.
All right. So you guys walk in, and as you know, the steps, there's not a level 1, but they're beautiful and marble and very smooth, but not a single one is level. And so it's awkward walking in, but it's just, aged marble. So you walk in, and you walk into the building. You walk up another flight of stairs, and there you have a talk, which is a command room, where you have all of your radios, maps, and people doing a lot of the high level communication. And they pull you into a side room where you usually do mission briefs and planning. And Captain O'Brien sits you down. Hey, all right, guys. So a couple days ago, well, really like a week ago, some of these fourth ID guys, they were over here doing, whatever it is that they're doing. And they went to a brick factory out here in Taji, over there along the river by the banana groves. Yeah. So they were throwing a rave. It was crazy.
That was totally the wrong track.
They all came back fist pumping. All right. So over by the banana groves. All right. So they came back and they were talking about some object. All right. And I don't know what it is. It's, something old that they found at the factory when they were digging up the clay. Anyway, so they told the university over here, and the university sent a team over to acquire it. And we've been informed that the State Department is sending 2 individuals to secure this object. Basically, at the same time, we're going to kidnap the anthropologist or the archaeologist that is studying it. So now we have to deal with them too.
You mean we're babysitting, Captain?
Oh yeah. And these are State Department guys. So I mean, there's no telling.
Man.
They might show up and be able to shoot. They might show up and not be able to tie their shoes. I mean, who knows? Like, it's a coin toss. So for us to be doing this, it came from up high. And I'm not excited about this. I'm just not excited about this. D is also present for all of these, so he's also in the room. And Captain O'Brien just looks, he looks pretty tired. Like he's clearly been dealing with this while you guys have been out for like the last 4 hours.
I do have a small flavor detail to add, is that D doesn't spend a ton of time, but if he has some downtime, he'll normally, I don't actually know the practice here for smoking. Is cigarettes a thing?
Oh yeah.
Is it, would there be a preference for like hand-rolled cigarettes, or would it, like, if I just like had a box of Marlboros, would that be weird? Or would it be more likely that I have like loose leaf tobacco that I'm like hand rolling?
Do you smoke menthol or non-menthol?
I would probably have menthols for myself, but I would hand everyone else non-menthols.
All right. You smoke Royales and you hand out Miamis.
Perfect. Okay.
All right.
So yeah, I'm just like breaking down a box while we're talking.
Yeah. And like I said, they're all pre-rolled. That's what you're smoking Royales, you're handing out Miamis. And yeah, you smoke everywhere. Also, you probably have a hookah.
Mm-hmm. I make it a point. I don't know if anyone would, the other operators would object with that, but I like try to make sure like I'm the person that always has cigarettes on hand. And so if they ever forget them, I always have them.
All right.
Does Lucas smoke?
Yeah, I think he does. Just seeing everyone else do it, he wants to, make sure he can fit in with the rest of the crowd.
Perfect.
He's not like a chain smoker, but if there's cigarettes coming out, he's going to reach for them.
Yeah, social smoker, definitely.
I got you. All right.
Yeah,
So
Butch smokes
that.
too. Yeah.
I mean, his name is Butch.
Yeah.
I expect him to be ripping filters off cigarettes.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. He just spits the filter out and just goes all in. If they're packed, he flips them around and twists the end to keep the tobacco from falling into his mouth. So, he just wets a little bit, packs down that loose paper.
All right. That feels right. All right.
Perfect.
So Captain O'Brien looks over at Sergeant Lucas, I'm sorry, Sergeant First Class Heath. He's like, "Hey, Heath, this means that it's on you, Luke. You're the one who's going to be calling these shots out here. I know, whenever we get these people around, we gotta, pretend like we give a shit about rank. So I don't know if they even know what ranks mean, but you got the most lines as far as they can tell between everyone else on the team. So that's on you. All right. You're try to make them feel comfortable.
I don't know about comfortable, but I can bring him back in one piece.
Yeah. Don't want them coming. I don't want them to feel like they can make a return trip. So
You got it.
Square wheels when you got to roll.
Captain, is this a one and done, in and out? Is that the plan?
I mean, all right. So that guy Pyar that we Pyar al-Assad that we're supposed to be picking up. Like we got a meeting with him in a couple of days. I'm sorry, this is the voice. He's it's more in the nose. He's Pyar's he's the archaeologist who, when they found this thing, like, he got real interested in it and he got the university to go snatch it up. He's already sent us notice that he needs that. He expects that to come with, so he can continue to study it. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we just get him and then they're interested in it. We get it. Maybe we send him with them and they go do whatever the hell it is they do and they don't ever bother us again.
So sounds pretty straightforward. Simple exfil op. Secure the target, secure the merchandise, and bring it all home while keeping our stadies alive.
Keep the nerds safe. Yeah.
That's it sounds about right. I mean, I'm sure that they'll want to take in some sights and they'll have to do some looking around. I mean, it's not going to be, immediate, but we should be good. Also, we don't want to move left with Pyar. We've already sped up his exfil by about 6 weeks. I don't feel comfortable moving it any further, just because we've had to change the plan too many times. It doesn't feel like they would be pertinent. So we're going to keep the same timeline. Today is Tuesday. He checks his watch to make sure that today is actually Tuesday. And he's like, yeah, today is Tuesday. They should be arriving tomorrow, and we have our meeting with Pyar Friday for the last brief before the operation Sunday morning. That'll give us about 5-6 days, maybe, that we've got to keep them around. We're going to snatch them from the university.
Ooh.
I hate to do that and put those people at risk, but I think it might be the best spot.
So there's no option for alternatives if one presents itself. I mean, how big of a snatch
it's
are
up to
we
you
talking
guys.
here?
You guys meet with them this Friday. If y'all want to move it, that's up to you. That's just I figured that would be the last place they would expect him to disappear from. But I mean, this is Iraq. Just you work it out with him come Friday when y'all meet with him. Okay. That meeting's going to be down in the market. They've got the falafel place down yonder.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. So
what's the name of that falafel bar again, man? We'll let Diamond use some channel points.
What is it? What's
Uh,
the name, Diamond?
yeah, what's the name of the falafel place, Diamond?
Freddy's Friendly Falafels
Yeah, there we
and
go.
fried eggs. Freddy's Friendly Falafels and fried eggs. Okay.
Um, so babysitting, tour guides. I hope they don't want to go too many places, man. It's hell around here.
I mean, it's the State Department. Like,
Yeah, they're gonna want to see everything. Probably first time in country too. You know it.
yeah, I mean, it's not like this is a real happening place people trying to vacation at.
Good deals on the hotels right now, though.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Hey, all right. So, I really don't even know what they might be wanting to bring with them.
I do have a question about setting for you. How good is internet connection? Is this something that you're like, oh, here are the people that you have to protect? Like, is it feasible to whip out a phone and like Google that? Like Google their names?
I mean,
I
you can
suppose
walk
that
over
we're talking about the early 2000s, right? No, I can't even do that.
2008. No, it's
Yeah.
2008. You could walk over to the computer and you could
Uh-huh.
jump on the net, the zipper net right there, and you could have access to everything. You
Sure.
just got to use that computer.
Okay,
They do
yeah,
have
yeah.
laptops and stuff like that that you can use.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I guess
you,
before we headed out, I would just look up what their background is, just so I have an idea of who I'm dealing with.
okay. So you're gonna pull up. Oh, the names that they give you, you're looking
Mhm.
for State Department agents.
Mm.
So
Oh, I
there's
see. Okay.
yeah, they're employees of the State Department. They work for the State Department. So you could search them and you would potentially find their names on rolls as
Mhm.
State Department employees because there's a Rolodex of every government
Okay.
employee.
I guess I would just
But-
look up kind of like what jobs they've held so far and like what their general skill sets are.
Yeah, when you look them up, then you just see that they work for the State Department as antiquities analyst or was it antiquities librarians, analysts, and observers. They just gather information for the State Department.
Do we have access to any like reprimanded or disciplinary records?
No,
Okay. Okay, that's okay. I don't know if they got arrested ever, but that will be enough.
I mean, you could run them through like any of those. What are they like? Identity Alert or whatever, where you research people. You could run them through one of those, I guess.
I feel like Dee's definitely infected a computer doing something stupid like that, and so he just avoids it.
Okay. So yeah, yeah. So I mean, you look them up. When you pull them up, they check out, and then also because they're coming in on a flight, they're on the flight manifest, like where the logistics of people moving in and out. You guys have access to that. Not everyone would, but you can see where they are. That they just left Camp Buring and they should be landing in Biop in about 8 hours.
So, not that this is never mind. I'll send you a message about this question, but keep going.
Yeah, that's fair. I know. Oh yeah. So y'all feel free to use DMs in this because you can.
Right on.
Okay. So
Are we picking them up from the airport?
they're gonna fly them out on a helicopter.
On a helicopter. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll Black Hawk them in.
Blackhawks. Gotcha. Well, that saves us a
I'm
trip
good.
to the city.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah. They're gonna Black Hawk them in, and then after that, it's just you guys. Like it's just gonna be however you wanna. Like I said, they're gonna Black Hawk in, and then it's gonna be on you guys. Like whatever they need done, you just kind of handle it. I mean, it could be like a nice little vacation, I guess. I mean, in theory, no one should be shooting at you. I mean, they're fucking nerds.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
In theory. captain, in theory.
Could we go through the operators that we have on hand? I don't think we have. We have. I'm playing D, and then we have
Sergeant
Sergeant
First
Henry
Class
Wilkins.
Oh yeah,
And
Staff
then-
Sergeant Henry Wilkins, also known as Butch,
Mhm.
and then Sergeant First Class Lucas Heath.
Mhm. And I'm just going to assume Sergeant is higher than First Class.
No, it would Staff Sergeant is one below Sergeant First Class.
Okay, cool.
So
I
Staff
just need to
Sergeant
know where
is
people
E6.
stand.
Sergeant First Class is E7. Although you know that on the team, rank is kind of like between the two of them, rank is really
Mhm.
more of a, especially in this environment, it's really more of an indicator of length, time and service
Perfect. Okay.
among them.
So
Okay,
yes,
so-
as far as Butch goes, he's big. He is built like a brick house, like muscled out. His primary weapon is an M249, with a daytime usage is just a 4x scope on it, but he has been known to throw an 8 or 12 by night vision scope, sniper scope on it. His background is in recon sniper, so he's been known to reach out and touch someone every now and then. He doesn't talk much about it, but you've heard stories. He's really good at what he does, and yeah.
Awesome.
Sergeant First Class Heath is also built like a brick shit house. I was channeling Dave Bautista in Blade Runner 2049 because
Nice.
our medic. So, yeah, Predator handshake between the two of us every time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What about D?
D is nondescript would probably be the way that you would put D. He's not built like a brick shit house like everyone else he seems to work with. He perpetually wears a shitty, cheap like medical mask, and that when they're out and about, he seems to have like kind of like a sordid past that he's pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Tight about details about, but the extent of which you know is that he's doing this out of necessity. That he allows is that he's doing this out of necessity, and that he doesn't want his family to be hurt.
Right. So D, you check those. All right. Okay. So with that, we'll jump back to our agents, Morganite and Malawan. Okay. So it's hot. It's hot as shit. Like the sun's not even up and it's still just, you feel it. It is just heavy in the air. For a desert, this is remarkably humid, being here in Kuwait. And you are, just you're living in tents for a few days while all the paperwork gets processed. And then you guys are informed that you're going to be that basically they send a runner to you to your tent, and they walk in, they pull out a list, they call out a bunch of names, you hear them call your names, and you stick your head up and they tell you that you're all on the next chalk flying in to buy up and to gather your things and report to the flight line in 60 minutes. So I'm assuming you guys are just going to go to the flight line. Yeah. So you get to the flight line. It's kind of like it's a tent. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and you hang out for a minute. They call your names. You will come up. They take your bags. You see them pack them onto a pallet with a bunch of other stuff, which they then wrap up, tie down, and they direct you to the inside of a C-130 cargo plane. Where you're seated along the sides. You are shoulder to shoulder, just the two of you are. You can tell that the people that are sitting next to you are trying to give you space, but they're having to wear their body armor and their kit. And so they're doing their best not to crowd you, which you also have to wear it, but they've got all the stuff on it. And so you're just kind of packed in there, and then they push the bags into the middle and they strap them down, and the lights inside turn red and the ramp goes up. You hear they offer you earplugs. Do you want them?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. So you take these orange foam earplugs, and they show you can't really hear anything because the engines are on, and it's just screaming. Everyone, they look at you, they're like, you take them and you roll them up and you put it in your ear. All right, you put them in there, they kind of sit and they slowly begin to expand. They're not comfortable, and you're not 100% sure if they're even doing anything. But you have them. The ramp goes up. You are in a darkened plane belly. What this must be what it's like to be luggage. And you hear the engines fire up, and the plane begins to move, and it takes off. There are small windows that you can catch a peek out the side. You're sitting there facing everyone else. You can kind of see somewhat of the landscape around you, but it doesn't matter if you could see it or not, because when after probably about 15 or 20 minutes, you feel the plane drop altitude like real fast. And then it begins to just move. Like you both should make a constitution check. Constitution times 5. It's gonna be the first roll. See how sick you get.
Ought to. Oh man, this is just like a roller coaster. Woo!
I know, I hate it.
Yeah, it is exactly
he
like a roller
passes.
coaster. And you hear the people next to you just kind of start laughing, and one of them leans over to you and he says, "They're mapping the ground."
Don't they already have maps?
They just kind of laugh at you, and you see him lean over and tell the guy next to him. He laughs, leans over, tells the person next to him. They laugh, and just it's a good laugh for a minute, and then the plane begins to you feel it actually descend, and it lands. And before too long, you hear a speaker kick on. It is cranked up very loud. You hear it even over the earplugs, which you may or may not be doing anything. And you hear them say, "Welcome to Baghdad International Airport. Glad that we could be of service today on flight." And he rattles off some numbers and letters and says, "Please wait until our plane has come to a complete stop, at which point in time you will need to lift all of your tray tables and go ahead and light them up if you got them as soon as those doors open." And they taxi around, pulls to a stop. The ramp is lowered, and a sudden fresh hell of hot, humid air just rushes in as the door opens up, and you sit there and wait as they unload the truck or unload the baggage out of the middle off the pallets. And then you unhook, you undo your seatbelt, you stand up, and you walk out, and they guide you over to a waiting helicopter, where you are quickly ushered onto the helicopter, and you are flown across the city in a strange place in the middle of the night, and find yourself landing in what appears to be gravel. And the helicopter still running, the individual in the back looks at you and says, "Straight, go straight." And he's indicating for you to go in one direction. Sergeant Heath and Sergeant Butch, or Sergeant Wilkins, are both standing just off of the helicopter landing zone, and that's where the guy's pointing for you to go.
All right. So Mia, you see, very pretty. She's tall, blonde, blue-eyed, and she has a very big smile and just is a very pretty person. Not at all what you would expect from a State Department nerd. So that's probably a little unexpected.
Oh, you're like a deployment 15.
I have no idea what that means.
How are you dressed? Other than the gear on, like
Oh, it doesn't matter.
professional,
I
comfortable.
mean,
Oh, it does matter.
No,
To Butch.
No, I mean, she's I'm probably wearing like a nicely fitted t-shirt and like jeans, but nothing
Okay.
super fancy or whatever.
I was just picturing like high heels and a mini
It
skirt.
reminds me of
out of
home.
a helicopter.
It reminds me of home back in Miami.
Oh God.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a hellhole like Miami.
Same kind of horrible.
And after the stunning Agent Morganite, Agent Malawan is a short, pudgy man with little curls of graying hair out from under the helmet that he's wearing. And he probably stumbles a little bit getting out of the helicopter even, but then he does like that low run, like cover the head, hold the whatever bag he's got over towards these brick shit houses of men.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and say Sergeant Wilkins and Sergeant Heath. I'm not going to make y'all roll. You smell Morganite before you see her.
Just from
When that helicopter lands, the doors open, you catch it. That's
perfume.
body wash.
Oh, body wash. Okay.
That's perfume. That's a woman.
That's a risk. This is Butch in his mind. That's a risk. She needs a fucking bath. She can't be smelling like that on my watch.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. You walk through the markets and it's not a far different, but it's just very unusual here. You know, like you
Yeah.
know that after 8 days, you just smell like old seafood. After 14 days, you have to take a shower because you're offensive to yourself. So, all right, but yeah, y'all see her, and Agent Morganite comes running out. I mean, you said you were tall. Like, how tall?
5'11".
Okay. Yeah, she comes running out. You see Agent Malawan kind of comes stumbling out, trying to stay on his feet. And the crew chief that was in the helicopter walks behind them, kind of laughing to himself about Agent Malawan bending, like doubling over at the waist, carrying their bags, and sets them down. And yeah, so he waves, turns around, gets on the helicopter takes off. There's no way you could have had any conversation because you couldn't have heard each other. D, did you go with them to pick up these two? You're muted. Can't hear you.
Look at me unmuting my mic. Look, I'm so good at this. No, I'm not paid to do that.
Yeah.
I don't even interpret to go pick up some at Yahoo, so I'm not going.
All right. Are you you do have access to the markets, and you have the ability to move about freely. Like you could leave if you wanted to, but that is a risk you take on yourself. It's a security hazard for yourself. You can't do it without.
How long are they going to be gone?
Oh, just 15 minutes.
Okay. I guess I'll do some spice and chill.
Okay. Just chain smoking.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, the helicopter takes off. Both Heath and Wilkins are standing there with Morganite and Malawan. And Morganite and Malawan, y'all's contact is Captain O'Brien, and you that's all you know.
Are either of you Captain O'Brien? By the way, gentlemen, my name is a Morganite.
No, ma'am. Neither of us are the captain, but we can take you to him. I'm Sergeant First Class Lucas Heath.
Staff Sergeant Henry Wilkins.
Oh, Wilkins and Heath. So nice to meet both of you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I turn and I look at Malawan and I'm like, these military men are so handsome. But I mean, that's nothing compared to you, Malawan. You're the most handsome. And
I'm
you really
happily
can't tell.
married.
You can't tell if she's joking or not.
And I'll cut a glance over to Luke and be like, you can read my thoughts. Like, this is not cool.
Trouble.
This is trouble. And if the other individual isn't going to introduce himself right away, I'm going to turn on my heel and just turn to and head straight to the captain's office.
You got a truck there.
Oh, we got a truck? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know how, like, yardage wise or meter wise. So, all right, I'm driving since I'm the lowest ranking individual here. I'm driving, so I'll open the back door of the Humvee for the lady and.
Y'all just in a pickup truck.
Okay, pickup. Fine.
It's just like a 4-door Toyota Hilux.
Oh, okay, nice.
So, have you two seen what they recovered from the brick factory yet?
No, sir. I believe we are going with you to pick that up.
Yep.
Ah,
That's a little bit
Well, it's
above
a
our pay
pleasure.
grade at this point. Hop in the truck. We'll take you to Captain O'Brien.
I'm Malawan, by the way.
Oh, pleasure to meet you, Malawan. My apologies. Apologies.
Yeah.
And I won't say anything, but I'll go ahead and hop in the shotgun seat.
And I'll hold the door for the two of them to get in, and then once they're in, I'll shut the door, jump in, and crank her up. Hope y'all don't mind. We don't have air conditioning.
It's okay. It reminds me of home.
It's 420 air conditioning. 4 windows down, 20 miles an hour.
Reminds me back at some of the digs I did in my youth. This is still terrible. It was terrible then. This is awful.
It's been a while since I've been on a dig. I spend most of my time in the archives. This is kind of exciting in a way, actually. I really love seeing old antiquities.
How long is the drive?
It's like 200 meters. I mean, I was just giving y'all a minute. I was letting y'all have your little conversation. It's about 200 meters.
So
I mean,
just so
yeah,
you know, Wilkins doesn't say much. He's not a very talkative person usually, so.
Okay. So yeah, you guys roll back. Malawan and Morganite, you pull up. You pull into what is clearly a parking lot. Get out of the truck. They're quickly, individuals come to take your bags, and you see them walk off towards some small white buildings that are on the other side of one set of T-walls, but there's still larger T-walls beyond them. And you see them start to walk off that direction, and Sergeant Heath and Wilkins just both start heading up and expect you to follow. I'm assuming that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So you guys get there and you begin to ascend the 15 steps that go up to the balcony, and then you enter into another door, and you see a man standing there. Sorry. A man standing there with an air of confidence that's almost contagious. He is sure of himself, although he sounds, when he speaks, almost like an accountant. Like, this is a big man who is very confident, an older man, but very, like in good shape, but sounds like an accountant as he speaks to you. He is definitely older than any of the members that you have met so far. And he is standing there smoking a cigar, and he ushers you quickly into or motions for you to enter into the room off the side. No, come on, come in. I'm sorry, that's not his voice. No, yeah, come on, inside. We gotta talk. We gotta talk about something before before you guys can go sleep. I know it's been a long day. It sucks for everybody, but whatever. Come in.
Okay. What have you got for us?
It's one of those fat, he obviously, Heath and Wilkins, he clearly went and found the biggest cigar he could for this meeting. Okay. There is a purple smoke rolling across this table that just kind of lingers in the air. It is a rich smell, and the window is open, but much like Miami, a beautiful place with a horrendous climate, the air just sits still, heavy. And okay, so yeah. My name is Captain O'Brien, Agent Malawan.
Yes.
Malawan. All right.
Yes.
And you must be Agent Morganite.
Yes, that would be me.
They did not warn me. We weren't ready. Do you mind sharing facilities with all the rest of us? We can get you your own bathroom.
Oh, that shouldn't be an issue.
Oh.
I trust Malawan. I could stay with him.
You are going to sleep in the same place, but you're going to want to use a bathroom. Well,
Yeah.
You can always just use one of the porta johns. You're going to want to take a shower. Don't worry. I'll have someone watch the door, not you. I'm sorry. You'll be good. Oh, God. He is clearly thrown off his game when you show up. He is just like, this is not normal. And he's just, all right, so what was it? What was it? What was it that you guys are here for? We know you're here for the artifact, right?
That's right.
Do you know what it is?
We're supposed to determine that when we see it.
Do you have it?
No. Do you know how big it is?
Unfortunately, we haven't been told a whole lot about it.
Yes, that feels about right for the State Department. Right, guys? And he kind of looks at Wilkins and Heath and just kind of laughs to himself, or laughs with them or at them. That feels about right for the State Department. Okay, so we're going to be finding this. We're going to find this object tonight. Okay. Not tonight, but what's y'all's timeline?
What is today?
It's Tuesday.
Okay. We just need to get to the artifact as soon as possible. That's the important part. And then do we have access to the brick factory?
We do. We are making contact Friday with the individual who has the possession of the artifact. Okay.
I'm not sure
it's Wednesday morning.
long.
I said Tuesday. It's technically Wednesday now. Okay. So it'll be Friday that we make contact with him. He's the archaeologist here at the university that is researching it. Are you interested in talking to him at all so that you understand what's going on there?
Yes, I would be interested in talking to him.
Hey, Heath, you think you can take them with you on Friday to the market?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So
are we saying we're not contacting him for 2 days?
yes, you are being attached to us, and we are doing you a favor.
Is there any way we can move that timeline up? 2 days is we need to get to this artifact post haste.
I mean, the artifact is at the university. Our contact is
Okay.
the person who is in control of the artifact. 2 days is the earliest we can make contact with our contact and not jeopardize his life. I mean, fuck it. If you want, I'll take you to his house right now.
That
No,
won't be
his-
necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, his house isn't necessary, especially if the artifact's at the university.
Yes. So Friday we will meet with them at the market, and then Sergeant Heath is going to work with the two of you and the contact in order to devise some sort of plan. This is being sprung on us at the last moment. I'm sorry. It's a lot. This is a lot.
I understand. It was kind of sprung on us as well. It's not as though we had time to thoroughly prepare for coming out here, but here we are nonetheless, and I am excited to learn about this artifact. And we appreciate the hospitality, however much it may be forced upon you. The hospitality that you were showing us.
You're welcome. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. I'm just real quick, we're gonna jump over to D. D, are you attending this, or are you basically just hanging out in the talk, doing regular hanging out with the other interpreters? You're muted. All day.
Look at me. Yeah, I'm basically hanging out with the other interpreters. I want to know more about this this brick place.
Sure. Yeah.
And somebody else managed to. So I'm looking for the history of this brick building.
Okay. Yeah. The brick factory. So you're sitting there talking to the Terps, and it's not common for interpreters like you. You're not from here. That's one of the reasons they put you here, is because it's an added level of security. But one of the interpreters who's here, he is from the area, and he is a known interpreter. He does not wear a mask at all when he goes out.
Mm-hmm.
He goes out full face, and he is, and he goes by the name Smeagol. Okay. And he's just like, he's from the area. He's like, oh yeah, no, I know exactly. You're talking about that brick factory over in Taji where they, sorry, hold on. He's not from there. Oh, you're talking about the brick factory in Taji, over by the Grove, right?
Right.
Yes. I mean, it's been there. I think my grandfather probably worked there. It's been there for decades. It's a generational factory. It's one of those that, I mean, probably have a brick in every building.
Mm-hmm. And what was your father's experience like working there?
It's just family business like any of the other brick factories. He's over there. You take the clay, he shaped the clay. He got paid well. They were fair. They were good people. They were fair.
Is your father still with us?
No.
I hate to pry, but I am kind of curious about the brick factory. How did he die?
Oh, he died during the gassings when Saddam gassed us.
Yeah, I guess he'll just kind of pivot from that because he doesn't want to make it awkward. But he can, if he can, he'll like try to ask other people if they had people that worked there, and he's kind of basically fishing to know if there's any weird happenings that happened by the brick factory.
Smeagol can tell you a little more. He's like, oh, I mean, it's okay. They're good people. They're religious. They are religious people. They attend the mosque. They keep Ramadan. They don't cheat. They're good Muslims, and they're good Iraqis. So they're friendly. There were times where we didn't really want, like, even when there wasn't really work, like they found stuff for my father to do. He would be pleased if we could help them any if there was something wrong. Why? Is there something? You just the artifact? That's it, y'all. I mean, it's at the university, right? That's what
Hmm.
that's what the talk in the market is.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to know if there was any rumors about the area that would confine. You know how these fucking Americans get when they hear about some new thing being found, and I was just trying to head off any potential stories that might come as a result of that.
Oh, all right. So yeah, no, he's just like, yeah, no, they're good people. I would say that if you're there midday, they'll be there. They don't
Mm-hmm.
they don't
I
really
guess to speak more at a meta level, what he's looking for is I'm trying to play like there's stupid people that are going to be looking for rumors, and I'm trying to like fish out if there's any rumors about the plant or the nearby area.
No, not really. There's not any like weird rumors or anything. I mean, it's just outside of town. I say just outside of town. It's kind of in a more remote area. Um, Nothing undue going on in
Right.
that area that you know of. And the Terps, they don't tell you of any sort of like mortars or anything being set up over there. So it's one of those places that whenever they go out there, they're like, hell yeah,
Okay.
this is going to be a
Okay,
chill
perfect.
place.
All I needed then. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do is I'm going to kill time. Well, they're basically going to swing back over here, right? And then we're all going to go to the site where it's
I
located.
mean, probably going to have to let the guests sleep just because the way in it's a long day. They haven't slept since probably they woke up Tuesday morning. It's now Wednesday morning. Still dark. But what you do hear from some of the Terps, they're talking about a street festival that they saw being set up. It's not a religious holiday. They're not sure what's going on, but they saw people setting up tents and lights and everything else inside the city. Inside Adamyhia.
Gotcha. Man, if those yahoos are going to sleep, I guess I'll. Do we have like a walkie system to stay in contact with the other team members, or?
No, but I mean, you could run over there and find them under a minute, 2 minutes.
Sure, I'll just head over there so that way I'm connected with everyone. Is probably what he'll do rather than go off on his own.
All right, so you guys come back and or you go into the talk and you can hear Captain O'Brien. He's like, all right, so Friday you'll meet with the guy. What is it that you guys need to accomplish today? After you sleep. I know, of course, after you sleep.
I wasn't gonna say that, but we what kind of supplies do you have for a dig?
Dig? Like holes?
Well,
I mean, we got e-tools. Little collapsible shovels.
well,
We
the
might
brick
need to-
factory, right?
Right. We might need to do some further excavations at the brick factory. That's what my colleague here is asking about.
You hear him, he looks over out the door and he whistles real loud and yells, "Hey, one of you specialists, go find me the pioneer tools." And you see a guy just take off. Like you hear him just take off. He's like, "Yeah, shovels, pickaxes. Anything else?"
What kind of transportation are we arranging for the artifact? Do we have a case of any kind?
How
no.
big is it?
I was going to say, I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves there. We need to know more about the artifact before we're going to know much about how to transport it. But I do think that we need to go to the brick factory probably tomorrow and take a look around, assuming that it is safe to do so, Captain.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to go to the brick factory, hey, Luke, you handle that. You guys, you take them to the brick factory, right?
Yes.
Make sure you
boss.
take D with you. They're gonna need to talk to people. I'm sure y'all need to talk to people, right?
Yes, that would be very helpful.
What do they? What is the general language around here?
Iraqi. You're in Iraq. Do you know where that is?
I'm a. Yes, I know where it
I
is.
specialize in Sumerian history. Of course, we know where this is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't give anything
You'd be
away.
surprised. I mean, like there are people out there with guns who don't know where we are. Like, I apologize. He just kind of looks over at you and he's like, in the morning, come up here for breakfast and I'll meet with you, and I'll give you a little bit of a briefing of the area, and we'll go ahead and get you guys started. Hey, Luke, what time you want to roll out?
I guess first thing in the morning. I don't know what time we would normally.
It's about
start
2:30,
military.
3 o'clock in the morning right now.
Right.
Basically, how long do you want to sleep?
Nerds need their rest for thinking, so let's get them a good 6 hours.
I like it. So about 8:30.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So he looks around. He's like, all right. So Captain O'Brien's like, you guys can roll out at y'all can get up at 8:30. You guys roll out at 9:30. I'll see you two in here if for breakfast. It's just right down here. Lunch is down here, dinner's down here, unless you want to go to the market. In which case, take D. Y'all have no idea who D is.
You want us to take D?
Yeah, if you go to the market. Did he not meet you guys at the... About that time, you hear D, or you hear the door to the talk open and close. It's real squeaky. And he's just like, oh, here he is. Diracula, please meet Mr. Malawan and Ms. Morganite of the State Department. This is Diracula. He's our best interpreter.
Dracula, huh? Okay.
No, it was clearly Diracula.
Oh, Dracula.
Yeah, I just give like a really shitty salute, like a real cheeky salute.
It's okay. We're not military.
D would just kind of give a shrug and says, "Everyone here gets a salute and gets called sir. Learn it quickly."
Okay. I'll look at Malawan. They're going to call me sir, apparently. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Do you?
No, I do. They won't.
D, what languages do you all speak?
D would just kind of shrug and says, "Enough to get you to where you need to be."
I'm gonna get along famously in this camp. I'm already feeling it.
Oh, it'll be fine. Don't be so nervous.
So yeah, Captain O'Brien's just like, all right, you guys do what you're gonna do. I'm gonna go run and then go to sleep, and I'll see you guys here in the morning for chow. And he bounces off. And
Bye, Captain.
yeah, you guys, he leaves. You guys, there's clearly someone standing there waiting to show you to where you're going.
Does he actually go run in this heat?
I'll look
I
at
used to do that, and yeah, people go running in Miami all the time when they were in here.
I'll look at
God.
Malawan and say, sometimes your life depends on how fast you can run. You better get used to it. And I will about face and walk out and just walk straight out of the top.
Which is so serious.
Ooh, tough guy, huh?
So serious.
Could have
I'm gonna-
sent somebody else.
And on my way out, I'll tell Sergeant First Class I'll be in the motor pool at 06 to get the vehicles ready for us.
Got it. As he's leaving, I'm kind of stifling a laugh at his joke about well, not so much joke, but I'm gonna have to step up to our agents and say, Ms. Morganite, Mr. Malwan, if you wouldn't mind, could I see the med packs they handed you? Just want to make sure that they're all in tip-top shape before we head out tomorrow.
No, that's okay. I already checked mine. It's quite all right.
Is that really necessary?
I like to be thorough, man. You'd be surprised how often they send us out here without everything we need.
Okay, whatever. I hand it to him.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
I'm
open it up.
actually going to check, yeah.
Yeah, you open it up. It's just a standard IFAC. So you have 2 tourniquets. It's actually got an extra tourniquet. So you got 2 tourniquets in there. You've got the Israeli bandage. You have the chemical clot. You have gauze. You have a nasal pharyngeal tube. You have they have little packets of Neosporin, like the antibiotic ointment. That's kind of out of the ordinary. They have those Band-Aids. They don't have scissors, and which is pretty commonly, it's common that they get stolen. So yeah, they don't have scissors, so they've probably been used by someone before, but wasn't used up, or at least it was repacked without them. That's the only thing that's missing out of both of them. Oh, they have, like Motrin, little bottle of Motrin, ibuprofen, 800 milligram.
Just the biggest
Bars.
Motrin tablets you've ever seen in your life.
No, 800 milligrams is what everyone here is walking around with a pocket full of them.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah. So Sergeant Wilkins probably that's how he starts his day.
He drops 2 in a cup of coffee and they dissolve in the coffee and he drinks them.
Yeah. And he seems to be that guy. He's just like, give me my candy.
This is his 3rd time out here, so he's familiar.
They are actually useful first aid kits, minus scissors.
Okay.
So
everything looks good here, and I'll hand it back to him. Yeah.
No, thank you, Heath. I do appreciate that you're looking out for us.
Just doing my job, man.
Lights of Royale.
Yeah. Gets handed one by D and lights it.
So, all right. Are you guys doing anything else tonight, or are you going to sleep?
No, going to sleep.
All right.
Yeah, that was a very harrowing journey.
All right. So you guys are shown to when you get ready to leave the door, there's a soldier standing there at parade rest with his hands behind his back, just on the outside of the door. He is wearing a uniform properly, which you can tell. You couldn't tell before because you'd only seen Wilkins and Heath, and you'd only seen flight uniforms. But now you see someone with their boots bloused, tucked in the boots, and their sleeves are down, and they look like you would imagine a soldier to look. And they're wearing a hat. Very surprising. Like, they do not look like Heath and Wilkins did, who clearly woke up with 12 fucks and were planning on going to sleep with 13. So yeah, but they stand there and they're like, "Sir, ma'am, I'll show you to your accommodations." And they move with a kind of snappy, snazzy, like they're clearly, it feels like they're almost putting on a show for you, because like they want, so just that individual, just kind of how it comes across as you walk out. When you came in, it's real quick, it's 3:30 in the morning. When you came in, There was milling people moving about. You saw some people playing cards, in the motor pool where you parked and everything. When you come out, that balcony overlooking the river has to have at least 25 people standing there, just playing poker, smoking cigarettes, milling about, drawing pictures. A couple people are standing there burning like paper. You see them throwing paper into a metal can, and a square metal can with flames coming out of it. And when the door opens, 25 sets of eyes turn and watch as you guys begin to descend the stairs. There is still conversation going on. If you want to make an alertness roll, you could probably try and follow some of it, but
Nope.
No.
yeah, there's still there's conversation going on. It takes a noticeable change in tone and volume as you guys are led down the stairs, around the T-walls, and into what is essentially a sheet metal room. That's awesome. So yeah, and you guys walk in. There are 2 beds, one on either side. They are metal framed. They have mattresses that are slightly above prison mattresses, but they are still better than the cots you were sleeping in Kuwait. And so you're actually kind of pleasantly surprised. There are sheets, blankets, and a pillow here.
Why would you need blankets?
Whew.
It's so hot.
It's an upgrade, and I'm gonna flop onto the bed.
No.
Malawan's going to hate life.
This is going to kill my back. Trust me, Morganite. Once you get to a certain age, you can't handle this kind of sleeping arrangements.
Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Look, you lay on top of the blanket instead of under it, and it gives you a little bit of extra of cush. That's how you do this.
If you say so. Oh, no. He's just dreading the thought of all of this.
Yeah. So, okay. So where you guys are, by the way, there's a window. There is a window. It is high up, and there is an air conditioner, but it's like a swamp cooler. So it's long, kind of narrow, near the ceiling. And as soon as you came in, it was already on. It's blowing as hard as it can, and it is tolerable. It's comfortable, almost. Just almost comfortable inside this room.
If one of the beds isn't under it directly, he's gonna scooch his cot over directly under it.
Oh, I mean, it's over one of them. It's
Dibs.
blowing over one.
Dibs.
Okay, so
I'm
that's
sorry,
the one that you
dibs.
went into.
You seem to have an abundant enthusiasm for roughing it. And you're
Oh.
welcome to it.
Fine, you can have the one under the air conditioner.
Wonderful.
All right, and you guys, you go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, looking at the clock, I don't want to push much further, just because I don't want to start the brick factory and not be able to finish it at the same sitting. And it's going to take about 2.5 hours. So is everyone cool with just kind of calling it right here? We got everyone introduced. Everyone's here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But yeah, we've got the Brick House brothers over here, fucking like
I am
Shrek 1 and
Hans.
Shrek 2.
We do the Hans and Franz thing every once in a while.
Yeah.
We're going to where you got made.
Yeah, exactly. I might actually use that as a joke. Yep, this is my birthplace.
Sergeant Lucas is like giving you directions to your. He's like, it's over there.
Oh, look, it's one of your baby cradles. How nice.
Nice.
It's just bricks.
All right. So, by the way, this is one of those games where you guys feel free to DM me anything that you want to do or anything that you want to know, and I'll be happy to provide it to you. If you guys are watching along at home, if you join the Discord, you can DM me questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. We are getting, like I said, we're about to get started at basically the next morning, and you guys said you're going to the brick factory. Okay, so that's where we will pick up next week. Any questions? Bitches, gripes, complaints?
I love it so far. I'm digging it. This is cool. What about at home, out in the chat? What do you think? You liking it so far? I know it's a little shorter session than what we would usually do, but I kind of like the short and dirties here. This is nice.
I mean, it can get real short, real dirty.
Again, right? It's Delta Green, of course it can.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's going to be. I just really think this is going to be a good place to stop, because I don't want to push through that brick factory and
Right.
not give it the time.
Yeah. We the base we probably do have, just so you know, some. Oh, I think Frankie's trying to say something. Demute. There he is.
There he is.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. I bought a new mic and it's already fritzing on me. So I'm just killing it today.
What happened, man?
What a Friday.
It's been a Friday. I haven't been running sessions longer than 3 hours, and that's been a really positive shift in my gaming experience, just from personal experience. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
why I didn't
fine
want
with
to
2 hour
push.
sessions.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to push. I was like, man, if it would end up being like 4 hours or probably 4 hours, even if we sped through it, because it's going to take a good hour. And probably.
Yep, and past 3 usually gets pretty miserable, but yeah, so I'm good.
Cool.
Awesome. So yeah, around the base, we'll have some livestock, I'm sure, goats, chickens, things like that, probably around our compound.
Oh, I'll give you guys like some more description about what's going on during the day real quick. So in the day,
Sure, yeah.
in the morning when you guys wake up, there is a donkey that wanders around. It's just wandering. It eats and gnaws at some of the trees and shrubs that are here. It's kind of strange. For the operators, that's y'all's pet. Y'all kind of keep the donkey. You enjoy having the donkey around because it's kind of funny. Also, the donkey will yell when anyone approaches, and donkeys are mean, and y'all know it. So, and loud. So that's there. The larger palace, which you guys drove by, also in the morning, you see there's a lot more movement and activity going around. With the sun up, you notice that there are individuals that are stationed on top, that are basically, they're just sitting on top of all of the buildings looking out. You can make them out. You see them move around. The other palace has it definitely has a splendor to it. It's beautiful, the part that's still standing. The other part is just complete devastation. I mean, it is a crater, and it is not pretty. That motor pool, which you drove by on the way in, the one that's associated with the larger palace, also large crater, and every vehicle there looks like it's seen better days. From the balcony, as the sun rises, you can see across the river there are large neighborhoods which have been separated by more of these concrete walls, almost just dividing them up so that you have different areas. While you're in and around this area, in the mornings, it's stunning being on that balcony as the sun comes up and reflects off that river. It's really something else. And then you also are constantly hearing the flow of traffic outside. buses, people, markets, as well as the call to prayer, which goes off 3 times. From where you are, you can hear all 4 major mosques start the call to prayer at the same time. Unfortunately, you can not differentiate between them because they are all 4 playing and they all just kind of bounce around in this area. So in the morning there's about 15 minutes when you wake up and you're getting ready to walk out that you're just, it's hard to be outside because it's so loud from all the discordant sounds and everything else. And it kind of juxtaposed against this beautiful sunrise. Inside the chow hall, inside that building, you enter into a room and there are drink refrigerators like you would see at a gas station, just lining the walls. Inside, you have cartons of milk. You have rippets, which are, you notice, an energy drink. You've never seen anything like this. You have little cans of coffee that are, either one of you speak Korean? No? Okay, so it's written in Korean. You're not sure what's in them, but you see a lot of people drinking them. You also see another can's taller, narrow can called shock coffee. It comes in a couple different flavors. These shorter cans also apparently come in different variety. Sodas. There is 2 refrigerators that are just full of large bottles of water. Okay. You see guys come in wearing their full kit with their body armor, and you'll see them open up the fridge and they'll take them out and they shove them into the armholes, and you'll see them walk out with that. What you notice is that every bottle of water, when they come out and you shake them, they instantly start to freeze because of the temperature of the fridge. There's also like a steam table there, although Malawan is not sure that you would ever need to heat food here. Really feel like that's superfluous, guys. But there's a steam table there, and when you come in the morning, they do have eggs. They're eggs. They're definitely eggs. They may have come in a solid form, but they were definitely eggs at some point in time. Bacon, sausage, and then, like apples, oranges, bananas, just hard fruits like that. Also protein shakes, which seems to be what everyone grabs first thing in the morning. People come in and you see people just taking 2 protein shakes and leaving. When you guys try to eat, I'm assuming you guys try to eat regular food. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get the feeling why they're doing this. In this heat, anything you eat feels like a ball of hot tar just kind of sitting in your stomach. It's heavy. Like, you're like, that was eggs and bacon, and it is heavy. And so one of the you do see people using salt on everything. Like, if they're eating an apple, you'll see them put salt on it. Okay, they got the little salt shakers in there. Yeah, it is heavy like McDonald's. That would be pretty, not much flavor to it, but it sits with you and it doesn't leave you. Other than that, like I said, you see people getting protein shakes and fruit and adding salt to the fruit and eating that and then walking out with their bottles of water. You do have regular goings on where you can hear the squawk of the radio coming from down the stairs. You're not really able to make out what's being said. You have people coming and going, performing different duties, carrying weapons into and out of an armory. You can tell it's an armory because the door is open and it's just racks. It's empty gun racks. So let's see. Yeah, so where your area is, there are 4 little portable buildings in total. Okay. You have 3 that are kind of set off on 3 together, and then you have 1 that's down this way that's more kind of off by itself. You're in one of the 3. There's a pergola that has clearly been built. I mean, from what was available, as well as picnic tables, which have been built out of better materials, right? Like there's been some time put into these, but they're again constructed. And pallets, wooden pallets, have been broken down and used to kind of make a walkway across the rocks. Okay. At the picnic table, there is a coffee can that is used to collect cigarette butts. There is netting hanging over this pergola, which is basically it's an open roof, but and then that one building that's by itself, opposite of that, there is a line of about 9 porta potties. Okay. You do see people go in and out of that building, and it has a large, I don't even know how to describe one. It's like a large, very large, like the size of a Nissan Versa, red barrel of sorts on its side. It's a reservoir of some sort, sitting on the roof of that building, and you see people going in and out of that building, carrying toiletries and such, and that would be you assume the shower. If you continue walking away from that, you would walk into basically the backside of the larger palace, and they have a few buildings down there that are all below the level of the walls, and they have other stuff going on there. You see soldiers milling about, moving in and out, doing their own things. You get, this is a very relaxed atmosphere. You don't see people saluting anyone. There's very uniforms. You do get the guy who was wearing the uniform proper and doing everything. He is the only person you see dressed that way. He's a taller guy, olive complexion, dark hair, and that's him. Every time you see him, that is exactly what he looks like. Wearing the uniform, wearing it correctly, taking care to, do all of that. All right.
It feels wasted on us.
Nope.
He is the very model of a perfect private first class.
There is something wrong with that guy.
Yeah, I don't trust him.
He's either that or a dedicated specialist. One or the other.
Like, is he
right?
This
Am I
guy's
right,
here
though?
spying on it? Like, what is this guy doing? Who is he?
He's an alien.
He is literally like I said, sun comes up, you see people moving about. He is the only person dressed this way. And he's dressed this way then. Like, he's in there eating breakfast dressed this way. Like,
Suspicious.
This is him. Yeah. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's his name? Ramirez?
Ernie?
Okay.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. All right. Well, everyone, again, if there are any questions, if anyone's watching and wants to play along, or has any questions, feel free to jump on the Discord, United Adventure Company, guys. It's a good time, and we'll get in the chat and come engage with us, come vibe with us.
Vibe. Awesome. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you, Starless, and I look forward to playing again next week.
Oh my god, thank you guys for playing, giving me an opportunity to run this. Something I've really been thinking about. I think it'll be a good time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And by
really
next week,
digging.
by next week I'll have the title credits done. So I didn't have a chance to get them all done tonight before the game, but we'll have all that done, and actually look like a halfway decent group of people that kind of know what we're doing out here, because we've been doing this for a couple of years now. But hey, thanks to everyone for coming out and playing. Starlos, thank you so much for running. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can just tell it's going to be fun. And to the new folks that have not been on the stream before, thanks for being brave to get on camera and get out here to our 6 viewers, which 3 of them are us, and and then there's Gina, Thorin, and Diamond out there watching us, and all the bots. We love you. We love you all to pieces.
Are the best.
Y'all are absolutely the best. But remember, deception is a right, truth is a privilege, and innocence, that's just a luxury. Folks, this is the United Adventure Company. This has been Delta Green. Until next time, stay out of our dungeons. Good night, everybody.